Hello, my friend, and welcome back for some more CSS goodness. Or if it's your first time here, welcome, and let's dive in and have some fun. The first thing I want to look at for quick tips is counters. Counters are an underrated and amazing feature. So in my HTML, I have like a tips for each one of these guys. Let's go look. I have my tips, and then each one of these sections for all the different tips we're going to be looking at has a class of tip on it. So tip, 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 you get the idea. And so let's go here, and the way we can use counters is with pseudo elements, or it's one of the useful ways where you might need to number things that aren't necessarily lists for visual purposes. I want to do that without actually having to come in and like number them myself. So if I need to rearrange things, it works out well. So on my tips here, what I'm going to do is a counter reset, and I'm going to say tip. So this is the parent all the way out at the end where all my tips are inside of. So I'm setting that up. You could even do this on your HTML, your body. Or wherever you want. And so the name, let's call it even tips, makes more sense to me. It's a little bit weird that we use the counter reset to do this, but this is actually creating the counter at the same time. It would have been nice, in my opinion, if we had a property to create it and a different one to reset it, but this is how it works, where we counter reset something to initiate the tips counter. Then what I can do is come on my before, and instead of just having a blank content here, I can say that this is my counter, and it's a function where I can write tips. And you can see in doing that, I have a 0 coming down the side of all my tips here, because we've reset our counter, but when we reset it, it starts at 0 and it's showing up there, but we need something that's actually going to increment it. And we do that in a very simple way. You can choose anything you want, any element. I'm going to do it on the tip itself. You could even do this on the before element, but I'm going to do it on the tip because it makes sense to me, where we can say that we have a counter increment, which this name makes perfect sense. And then you just write the name of the counter that you want. And I can save, and now you can see that those are all being counted out. Now, there's a few other things with this that we can do. If you want to say 0, 1, 0, 2, that's probably going to, let's make this 2ch. This is my pseudo element is getting put into my grid here, which is why the space is available for it. And I could actually just here put a 0 and then my counter tips after it. And then I get my 0, 1. I'll make that 3ch just to increase the space a little bit. And if you don't know ch, it's the width of a character. But it's a little bit weird here because I don't think it's not getting this font size, so it's a little bit off. But yeah, you can do something, 0, whatever. You can put a string and have the counter show up and it will work. If you need a space, you just add the space in there. We don't have the room for it, so it's breaking on 2 lines, but you get the general idea, I think, of how this is working. Another thing you could do is, because these are just visual, there's the argument to be made that maybe you don't want a screen reader reading these out. So now, this is like a bonus tip, is on pseudo elements on the content property, you can include alt text. So you just do it a / and then the alt text afterwards. And just like an image, if an image is purely decorational and doesn't serve a purpose for the site, then we can just put an empty string here, and then it won't be like 1 counters, 2 user select none. I don't think we really need it in this case, and so I'm going to leave it like that and just treat them as visual. But if you think they should be read out, I guess it's completely up to you. But I think this makes more sense. There is more to counters. I'm pretty sure I covered it in a video, but it would have been a really long time ago. But if there is a video that I have gone more in depth, I'll put a link in the description if you want to know more about them. Next up is user select none. And I won't lie, this was more useful in the past. It can be very useful for certain things if you're making them draggable, but even the draggable thing now I found doesn't actually cause any issues. And it used to be a thing where the user select none was annoying because you could actually like accidentally click and select text in a button if you were just like clicking and dragging a little bit, or not clicking fast enough, or even double clicking on things could cause them to be selected. From what I can tell in browsers these days on buttons, that doesn't really happen anymore. Even in Firefox, like I think user select none is a default on buttons. I could be wrong on that. But what can be annoying is if you have different things in a page that you just don't want to be selected. Like say someone is copy pasting or whatever, or maybe they click outside the button. I don't know why, but there are some situations where there are things that it doesn't make sense for a user to select. So what we can do for that is on things like buttons, we can actually say that there's a user select of none. And now this isn't selectable text. So if I copy this and let's just put a comment here and I paste that in, we're getting all the text, but this is never being selected. So it can be useful for something if you think a user is going to be selecting things. And yeah, I think it's a nice little quick win. Be careful where you use it. Don't use it as a way to like try and, you know, prevent users from selecting stuff, because that's really annoying, unless there's a good reason to do so. And it can, as I said, depending on how you're doing draggable stuff, it is possible that you want to make other things on the page user select none if you're running into issues where stuff is getting selected when an element is being dragged. But draggable elements now, I think that's not as much of an issue, at least as it used to be. So user select none is another one. Again, maybe not as useful as it used to be, but I still like it. Next up, we have our font variant numeric tabular-nums. And this is useful if you have numbers, where numbers are varying widths, unless you're using a monospace font. We don't always want to use monospace fonts, though. So what we can do is, I have my data table TD here. I can use my font variant numeric tabular-nums. Let's make this a bit bigger so it's all on here at the same time. And then I can just come and put that on. And you'll notice the spacing has shifted a little bit on them. They're all becoming a little bit wider, and they're actually essentially becoming a monospace font. Now, my example here is not fantastic, I won't lie. But anytime you have numbers like this, you want to just like clearly align things. It's a lot nicer when you're using this, and it won't affect things that aren't numbers. So you could do this on your, like even your table, and it won't actually impact anything else other than the numbers that you have. And you can see it actually looks kind of monospaced where it's not a monospace font. So it's kind of interesting there. And if you do have tabular data that involves numbers, especially lots of numbers, where one might have a lot of zeros and another one might have lots of ones, then it can really be a big win on readability. So these are quick tips. We're running through these really fast. Another one is multi-column. I've talked about multi-column a bunch of times already, but I have to keep mentioning it because not enough people are using it. So we have this multi-column set up here where I have this resizable element, and I've made it resizable because I want to look at how we can just have columns of text. Look at that. There's columns coming in. And we give this like something like 15 ch. And what that's saying is that's like the minimum column size that we want. So as this is getting narrower, the columns just go away. Oh, and they're getting kind of close. I didn't even think of this, but the gap, I believe the gap property started with columns. So let's just make it more obvious by making it pretty big. And then we get the 2 rem that's coming in there. So there we go. It's working. You get more and more columns. Now you might go, I want that 15 ch, which is a bit narrow, but maybe that's perfect for you. But you don't want to get like 5 columns. You want it to get, the maximum is 3. So, well, you can do that. You can see my comment here. So let's take this one off, and we're going to go to 315. And if you do that, it's going to give you a maximum of 3 columns with an ideal size of 15 ch. So now it will shrink down. We're not locking in at 3 columns. We're saying ideally 3 columns, but we want to adhere to this 15 ch as well. And it works well. And of course, 15 could be changed to 25, or it could be a pixel value, whatever you need it to be. And it works great. And importantly here, though, if you only give a column value and nothing else, you are locked in with that many columns. So I would suggest if you're going to put a column count, also to put a size, again, with whatever units you want, and it will work. And yeah, columns are pretty cool. There is something that you can, in paragraph text like this, it works best just to let it flow. I do have more in-depth content on columns, so I'll put a link to that one in the description, as well as my course CSS Demystified. There is a whole lesson on columns in there, as well as diving deep into Flexbox and Grid, and in general, learning how to start writing your CSS with more confidence, getting into the CSS mindset, and then transitioning to layouts, and then transitioning into fluid and responsive and intrinsic design patterns. If that sounds good, the link for that is also in the description. But yeah, with our columns here, as we're making this bigger and smaller, what was I going to say? I completely lost track of, the line breaking. So yeah, in this case, you can see this paragraph is going across 2 columns. And with paragraphs, that's completely fine. But if you have this with cards or other things, it can actually create these really awkward breaks. So you can do a break inside a void, and that will prevent things from breaking across columns. With paragraphs, again, this makes for some really unbalanced, weird looking things that might not be fantastic. So I wouldn't use it with just regular flow text, but if you have cards or other stuff, I would encourage using it. But yeah, with normal text, it's very normal for that type of thing to happen. So it depends on your use case. Really fun is we have the gap. Oh, column gap was the original property. We can just use gap now. But we have column rule, and column rule is an interesting one because it will add a decoration. Let's make this a little bit more obvious. We're going to say 3 pixels. That should be obvious enough. Let's just say it's white so we can really see it instead of the nice subtle color that would be more realistic. But you can see I get a decoration or a rule that comes in between them, and it just automatically works. What's cool about this is a similar property is called gap decoration is coming to Grid and Flexbox. They're working on the spec now, and it's going to allow us to decorate the gaps in Flexbox and Grid. And it's a lot more powerful than just sort of what we see here, because we have columns and rows with Flexbox and Grid. It's really cool what's going to be happening. And I think some of those things are also going to be coming over to the columns that we have here as well. Cool. Last one is text decoration thickness. And I'm going to do one thing here before we dive into it. It's not just thickness. I made a mistake. I was originally only going to talk about thickness, so I titled it that and then said I should talk about all of the text decoration stuff that most people don't know about. So I'm going to start with a body of a padding block and 10 rem just to add some space to the bottom of my page. Let's make this 50. Just so it's not stuck down at the bottom and I can sort of bring it to the middle of your viewport here. Or else it would have been stuck under my head and I would have forgotten about that and done this demo with things under my head, which is never good. So we're going to start with thickness though, or we can say that we can actually change the thickness of a line, and I hope that doesn't keep on jumping every time I save. And so this one has actually gotten thicker now. And let's just make this like 30. So you can actually see it, where you can see it's like ridiculously thick. Or we can do it as 1, and you can actually see this line is now thinner than the lines were before. So yeah, you can actually control how thick or thin the line is. I'm going to let's do that as a 5, but before I change that, you can also change the offset, which is how far away it is. The offset's an interesting one because it is a text underline offset, because it only works on underlines. It doesn't work on the other decorations that you can do, which is your overline and your strike through. So I've offset it, I moved it down. Let's move it down by even more, 15 pixels. And yeah, we can see that is now shifted down by quite a bit right there. And yeah, you can even negatively move it. You can do what you want with it. I think it's an interesting one, again, that not enough people are aware of. We also have the style. More people might know about the style, but let's just turn all of these on. I was going to do them one by one, but we're under quick ones. So we can change the style, thickness, the color. Bonus tip there as well. The color is something we can change. And I'm also going to do an offset on this one. And there we go. We get a wavy underline. And you can change these on hover and other stuff as well. The color is animatable. So you can like do a transition on the color of it if you want. But yeah, nice little optional fun thing you can do on your links there. And again, there's other styles that we can do along the way with these. So you can sort of play around and create more interesting looking links for your projects if you need to, especially on like personal projects. But there's some times where something wavy or dotted might actually be something that you're after. So yeah, there we go. Bunch of tips. I've talked about a few different things that are linked down in the description, including CSS Demystified. So if you're interested in that, do make sure to check it out. And with that, I want to say thank you very much to my enabler of Awesome Johnny, as well as all my other patrons and channel members for their continued support. And of course, until next time, don't forget to make your corner of the internet just a little bit more awesome.